So a lot of people have asked me what are the best investment here in Australia, and I think that's because I've got a lot of attraction when I did some video about not buying a house that you can't afford or thinking about your house where you live as an investment. And I've realized that a lot of people don't actually know the difference between asset and liabilities, and I'll explain that very quickly before I go into the different type of investment that you can position yourself for. First, an asset is something that generates money for you, that brings money, right? So whatever you have, if it does not bring money, that is not an asset. Liability is something that takes away from you. So even though we always demonize buying a car and all of that, for example, because it's a depreciating asset, in some context a car can be an asset, appreciating asset. For example, if somebody buys a car for Uber and they're using that for work, that car is going to be generating money. So in that situation, that is an asset. So something that takes away money from you is a liability, while something that puts money in your pocket is an asset. Now let's get into the different investment opportunities that you can tap into here in Australia. And I'm going to be drawing from my own personal experience, learnings over the years. I have learned from books such as Barefoot Investor. I have learned from books like Psychology of Money, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, a lot of podcasts, investing in Australia, like Raiz Network had great resources. I can link it if you're interested as well. So let's get into it. The first thing you need to do when you're thinking about investment is to understand your goals. And what does that mean? It is to say, what are my goals? What am I investing for? Is it to buy a house? Is it to invest so that I have good retirement? Or is it for me to just grow my wealth and enjoy life, allow my money to work for me and generate more money? So depending on your goals, that would inform the strategy for your investment, and that's super important. And that takes me to the next point, which is about you need to educate yourself about investment. So you can't just watch a video like this and then the next thing is you go and invest. No, you watch a video, you synthesize the information, you read a book, you synthesize the information and align the first step, which is understanding your goals, right? For you to understand that, okay, this is what the best investment would be for me, because not all investment may be good for you, and I've seen that in my own personal journey. For example, coming from Africa, I usually invest in mutual funds there, where I just pay into a fund manager and it's a money market and I just get return every single month. Now that has become a bad investment for me once I moved abroad here in Australia, because the value of naira, like that currency, was depreciating a lot. So whatever returns I was getting was inconsequential for my new context, and that made me go into the value of saying I need to understand how to invest in Australia so that I can invest in better currency and not put my money back in naira back home where it will be depreciating no matter any return I get. So in that sense, I think that it's super important for you to educate yourself. There are easy and cheap ways to educate yourself. You can watch videos, you can read books. I would suggest you actually read books. There's a ton of value here for you. Now, once you educate yourself, there are several investment opportunities. And again, disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor. I am just sharing my own personal experience and learnings. So please don't take this for financial advice. So what you want to do is to evaluate different investment opportunities. So in Australia here, they love property, and that's why so many people, when you call me out, when they work a bit and they have good credit, they may think, oh, let me just go and buy a house and live in and I build equity and that is my way to wealth. That is not it, because going back to the fundamental understanding of asset and liability, anything that does not generate money for you month on month is not an asset, right? Yes, in the long term it can be an asset if you decide to change the fact by maybe turning that house to a financial investment later down the line, which is fine. If you understand the property market here in Australia, you can make a lot of money, but the caveat is understanding, like educating yourself on property investing. because there are a lot of tax implications. There are a lot of strategies that you need to understand. Else, you make a purchase, you buy a house in a region that is not high growth, and you see that you're losing money, right? And people that lose money in property investment, some people deliberately want to lose money because of another concept called negative gearing that they use as a financial vehicle to reduce their tax and all of that. So that's why educating yourself on these different investment opportunities or options is super important, so you know what aligns with your own goal and you can define a strategy around that. Number two is shares. I'm sure shares is popular. Shares is the concept here is like we all know that we are living in a capitalist world, right? So there are a lot of companies, and the publicly listed companies list opportunity for people to buy, you and I to buy shares. The issue with that is, for example, if you buy a share today in a company and they are not doing well, maybe next 2 years, maybe they liquidate or declare bankruptcy, all the money you invest there will also go down. And that's the danger in investing in a single company. But if you also choose the right company, say for example you chose Microsoft, Apple, all of these companies 10 years ago, and now they've become monster of a company and their value have increased, then you suddenly find yourself in the world. And that takes me to the next investment opportunity that I really genuinely like, which is called EFT. So rather than the risk of buying a single company that may go bust and you lose all your investment, then we say, hey, how do we ensure that we safeguard, we diversify? So EFT is an investment fund that trades on the stock exchange like individual stock as well, but they are tracked by index, and it's like buying a basket of shares. You're buying several companies, so it's like rather than buy one specific chocolate, you're buying favorite, you're buying a box of chocolate. So even if you don't like some of those chocolate, there's high chance that you would like a couple in the box, right? That's the same idea. So this is a group of companies that are indexed. You can invest in them, and maybe 10 out of the 100 or 500 would do well, and that means that you are diversified, your risk is low, right? So of course it would have been better to be able to choose those 10 companies that will do well if you selected individual stock. But going back to the analogy, you may get it wrong, right? You can't predict the future, but it is going to be more feasible that at least not all the companies in the ETF fund would fail, right? It's unreasonable to say all of them will fail. Some will do so well to cover the loss for the others, and that's why it's such an attractive investment option for me personally. So there are different ETF funds you can invest in. For example, there's index ETF, which is something like ASX. That's the Australian Security Exchange. They have the ASX 200 fund that you can invest to, and I'll talk about how you can do that. And there's thematic EFT. So if you want to invest in companies that specialize in tech sector, for example, if you say, hey, I love tech companies, I want to invest in them, you can invest in thematic EFT. There's international EFT like S&P 500. You may have heard that before. That gives you exposure to the US market, the international market, and that may be good also to cushion the impact of inflation and a weak currency. So the dollar is like the global currency, for example. So buying international EFT may be a good option as well. There's bond EFT. There are a lot of them. For me personally, I invest in some international EFT and Australian one as well, because I've noticed that Australian EFT pays dividend, which is very good, right? So you can see that it is super important to educate yourself based on what I'm also saying. So that is EFT, and I really encourage people to do that because it is low risk. You can get in there with as little as $10 just to try it out. But for example, you can use apps like CommSec app. It's in your CommBank. So if you go to the options, you see investing, and on CommBank, if you're a customer, you can invest as little as $50. You can do that month on month, and you allow compounding to do its thing which is super important. We all have opportunity to invest in a safe way, right? So the next one is that I like. The next app that I use for investment is Perla, right? So Perla is a very good app. So I just automate my investment. So I buy some international EFT. And another one is Raiz, Raiz. So that one basically rounds up my spending. So I think the way I set that up was, if I spend a particular dollar, it will round up the change and invest it for me, and I really like that. So it also helps me control my spending, which is very good. And yeah, it is so important for you to look at, okay, the fees, the management fees for all of these different apps, because that also compound. If you're paying high management fee, that compound, which you don't want. So you want to investigate this app. For me, my own recommendation and what I use today, these apps I've mentioned. Another investment option is to invest more in your superannuation. So by default, the government have mandated or structured in a way that your company where you work, right, whether you work blue collar, white collar job, your employer needs to pay 11.5% of your annual salary into your super fund. So by default, you are invested, and that is very good. It's like pension back in Nigeria. So your employer by law would pay that amount into your superannuation fund, and that's why you see they ask you what super, when you're changing job, they may ask you what's your super fund. You provide your super, and it's important for you to also check your super fund to see, are you in a balanced fund or high growth fund. If you're young and you have appetite, for me, I've had to change mine to high growth because I still believe that I have many years of working life left, so I want to chase growth. So they invest more in more risky asset, but we know that the more the risk, the more the reward, which is very good. But if you're closer to your retirement, you don't want to take more risk, so that's where you may have balanced options as well. So superannuation is a very good one. For me, one thing I also do in addition to that is to do salary sacrifice. And what that means is every single month, I've instructed my employer that every single month they invest extra in my superannuation, because as an immigrant, I'm playing catch up. So I moved to Australia like 2 years ago, and I started from zero on my fund, right? So basically, somebody my age ideally should have around, I think last time I checked, $90,000. Now, because I am starting at zero, I am typically going to be playing catch up. If I have long term to stay here in Australia, my retirement may be affected. So what I want to do is to aggressively add money to my super fund. So I specified to my employer to salary sacrifice X amount, and in addition to the 11.5 I'm paying to my super by default, I'm doing an employee contribution to my super, so pump it up, faster for me, so that I can kind of like play catch up and be at the right level, as soon as possible. So that is my own strategy, and that's from educating myself. I know that, okay. And the other thing is, if I wanted to buy a house, for example, I can draw from my own employee contribution, and add that to my down payment in future. That is something you can also do. Also, another benefit of that salary sacrifice is that it is going to reduce my taxable income, because they take that salary sacrifice amount before my taxable income. So it means that I'm going to pay lesser tax than my current tax bracket, if that makes sense. So basically, that is also one of my strategies to invest more. And the other investment option that I really love is to start a business or side hustle. So for example, I also work full time, but I've mapped out like what value can I create in the world to help people. Like for example, I've been called to help African immigrants get ahead in their life, train, get skills that would increase their leverage. So in the last 2 years, for example, in Australia, I've been helping a lot of African immigrants build skills that has changed their life effectively. So they've learned tech skills. Many of them are working amazing companies across the world, in the UK, Canada, US, Australia, and that is something that such a pride for me. Effectively, more value, more money will come to me as a result, and I want to be able to do more of that this year on a larger scale. So, and the other big part of the thing I do is about shaping mindset, making sure that Africans understand that they cannot afford to settle for less. They cannot live their life on crisis mode forever. So crisis mode is like in the rat of just living from paycheck to paycheck, which is not sustainable in the long run. So for me, I am actively reshaping minds and saying, hey, you are more, learn skills that can change your life. And many people that decide to take action, many of them are now in amazing jobs and they are happy and they send message, and that is so rewarding for me. So building a business is a great investment option. The upside is very high, but of course it changes your life. Like, you have to live and breathe it. You have to put in a lot of work to be able to gain any traction. You have to learn skills, marketing, sales, operation, delivery, scaling. There's so many things, managing people, leadership, operation. There's so many parts to building a business that whilst the upside is high, it is so high as well to start and manage and scale. So I get why everybody would not really take this opportunity, but we're also building a platform that allows you to be able to commercialize your skills, monetize your skills. So let's say you're good at cleaning, let's say you're good at helping somebody do a design, let's say you're good at helping somebody learn new instrument, for example. You can come on a platform like Oloja Hub and you can definitely monetize your skills, connect to people who are interested in those areas and make more money, right? And you're doing that, you're increasing your leverage, you're increasing your value, you're making more money, and that is another super important investment option. But in all of this, I would also say that it's important for you to understand the tax implication. So back home in Nigeria, I would say we don't pay a lot of tax. A lot of us pay maybe income tax, the one paid PYG then, and that was it. But here, there are other type of tax like capital gain tax, that you also need to understand. So when you earn money by selling an asset or an investment, you would pay capital gain tax, right? If you inherit property, you pay inheritance tax. There's a lot of tax that you need to understand and not be playing foul of the ATO. So that's super important as well. And then I would summarize all of this by saying that please, you need to educate yourself on all of these different investment opportunity and do your due diligence so that you can position yourself. All of these investment options cannot apply to one person if you've not determined your goal, right? Some may be better than the other, and that's why you need to know the strength of all of these different investment options and know how you can position. At the end of the day, diversification is a strength. You want to get to a point where your money is working for you, not you working, with your time continuous, because you have limited amount of time. You want to get to a point where your money is buying you more time and making you more money. And that is why I've done this video, to help you understand investing option 101. Let me know in the comment if you have any suggestion, advice that you want to call my attention to. If you're a financial advisor and you'd like to help more people in the community, you can reach out to me and we can collaborate. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, kindly subscribe to this channel, it really helps. Follow me for more videos like this. Thank you.